With scrimmage number 2 right around the corner, what are the expectations for the Vanderbilt Commodores? What answers are they going to be able to get? Will there be some clarification in the quarterback race?
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and today we're going to talk, it's all scrimmage number 2. It's on the horizon. What are our expectations? Of course, there's a practice in between, but we're probably not going to be able to gather a ton from the practice that's in between the scrimmage and now. So really all eyes, all things are set towards scrimmage number 2. Is the defense going to get back on track? Is there going to be some wide receivers that emerge out of the pack that are going to be surefire answers? Are we going to get some answers at the quarterback position? What do we expect from scrimmage 2? We're going to answer all of those questions right here on this edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast. So let's start with quarterback play, because that's probably been one of the most complicated position battles the entire camp, probably across the country. I don't think there's a battle that's been as tightly contested as this quarterback race is right now. And it's been one of the most complicated ones in recent memory because of how back and forth that this battle has gone. I know I seem like a broken record when I say that, but when you look at this quarterback competition, there's a lot of variables that affect the decision. There's a lot of variables that affect what is deemed the best solution, because there's right answers and there's wrong answers with both options. And those right answers don't outweigh the wrong answers for either side just yet. So the goal is hopefully Clark Lea and the offensive staff will get some answers with the quarterback position after this scrimmage. What we're likely going to see is, I'm hoping that it's going to be, and I'll be out of town, so I'll just be reading up on it, but what we're hoping to see out of this competition is, I want to see game-like scenarios more so than you probably did in the first scrimmage. I want to see them put in adverse situations, and I want to see if they can get out of it. I want to see, I think QB1, whoever that's going to be, Blaise Berlowitz or Jared Curtis, whoever that's going to be, you're going to need to see them operate the offense. You're going to need to see who is the most consistent at leading the offense down the field. And if you can do that, if you can get those answers, then you're going to have a clear picture. And then that clear picture will say, okay, well, we are willing to take the faults with the good stuff. And I think if it's Jared Curtis, obviously the leash will be a lot longer, being that he's a freshman, and they'll kind of work through a lot of those mistakes early on. If it's Blaise Berlowitz, he's a fifth-year guy. What it takes for him to win the job, I think, comes with the shorter leash, and they'll be quicker to pull him out because he's a veteran and because he's expected to be a lot further along. And it's going to come with that responsibility, and he probably knows that on the front end, or he should know that on the front end, because he's expected to be a little bit better in that regard. So for Blaise, Jared, whoever it is, I think on Saturday, the biggest thing for them to do is to operate efficiently, make the easy throws easy. Take the plays the defense is going to give you. There's a saying out there, you can never go broke making a profit. So just get yards, get the ball down the field. Don't take unnecessary risks. Now, with Jared Curtis, there's some risk that he can take that others can't because of his arm strength, but do not take unnecessary risk. And that's going to be a big factor. I feel like that's a big factor with Clark Lea. Mitigating risk, managing risk, and making sure that you don't make the catastrophic mistake of giving the ball away, especially in a situation to where you give the opposing team a short field and you put your defense in a bad position. That's going to be a big no-no for Clark Lea, for whoever decides to, well, not decides, but whoever ends up doing that. That's going to be a big detractor in your prospects of winning this battle. So the winner of this you're going to read about this. You're going to read about the winner of the quarterback battle. And the goal, I think, for Clark Lea is to determine a winner. So I think he's going to do whatever he can with the defense. And honestly, and I'll full circle this later on, but like I think the defense is in a place to where they can kind of service the needs of the offense as far as evaluating a quarterback. So they can do some things off script a little bit to throw some things at the quarterbacks. And I think that's going to be a big, big factor in, what determines who's going to win this job. Because I think if they can see as many different looks, as many different blitzes to react to, that's going to give the coaching staff an idea of how they're going to operate against the David Dorn offense or defense, how they're going to operate against a DJ Durkin defense, a Kirby Smart defense, a whoever defense down the road, like a Jim Knowles defense at Tennessee, a Ron Roberts defense at Florida, that kind of thing. So you're going to see. No, I think it's Brad White. Ron Roberts, I think, is Arkansas. I'm getting my defensive coordinators confused. Pardon me. But the point is you're going to get an idea, because if it's Jared Curtis, or really if it's a new guy, it doesn't matter. For DJ Durkin and Kirby Smart, it doesn't matter. You could be Tom Brady back there, or you could be a first-year freshman starting at quarterback. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. So that necessarily doesn't really matter. But I think for Jared Curtis, especially because of the expectations that he carries, being the 5-star, being the highest-rated recruit Vanderbilt's ever gotten, being the highest-rated quarterback in that class, I think what the expectations are going to be for him, I think are going to be different. I think if he's the starting guy, it's going to be different. What you expect from him is going to be different. And so with that being said, you have to evaluate it differently. And, with this scrimmage, I think they have the flexibility to be able to do so. And I think the defense has I think they have the depth. I think they have the knowledge. I think they're going to be just fine. If you read about the defense not playing as well, it probably means they were taking some chances on some things. They were installing some things. They were taking a look at different things. They were put in adverse situations on purpose sometimes. So there's going to be some things that you read that you're like, I'm a little concerned about the defense. And really, you shouldn't be, because I think you have 9 safeties. I think you have 2 NFL. I think you have at least 3 NFL corners. Caden Daniels, Martell Height, and Jordan Matthews. I think other guys are going to be that level as well. Kobe Sellers is starting to have a good camp there. So I think the defense is going to be fine. But circling back to the quarterback position, it's vital to create some separation. Like, this scrimmage should create separation. Either one guy pulling ahead or one guy falling significantly back. Whatever happens, that separation needs to happen one way or the other. Either one guy surging ahead or one guy falling back, or a combination of both, where one guy surges, another guy falls, and you create that gap. Because I think once there's a significant enough gap, Clark Lea will call it. And I know he's willing to, and he said he's willing to go into the first game. He doesn't want to. He's willing to if he has to. And I think if he has to, I think that, and there's theories about this everywhere, but I think if this thing goes into the first game, I think it's going to favor, the more time that elapses, I think it's going to favor Jared Curtis, because if you do not have that separation, from a fifth-year senior over a freshman, I feel like you're going to get to a certain point of diminishing returns. And those diminishing returns are not good for Blaise Berlowitz as far as his goal of being the starting quarterback. So for Blaise Berlowitz, I think my prediction, as I said yesterday, I'm going to reiterate it. If Blaise Berlowitz is going to win this job, he's going to win it on Saturday. I think if Blaise Berlowitz is going to win the quarterback job, he's going to separate on Saturday in the scrimmage. He's got to be far and above, better than Jared Curtis in this scrimmage if he's going to win this job. That's my prediction. Right? That's my guess on what's happening. Because of his experience, because of what he should know and what he should be, that's the expectation for Blaise Berlowitz. If you're going to separate, now's the time. Because the longer you go, the more comfortable Jared Curtis is going to get, and he's going to overtake you. For Jared Curtis, he can go win this job on Saturday. But as long as he stays even with Blaise Berlowitz, if he can just prevent Blaise Berlowitz from separating, I think he can win the battle eventually. For Blaise has got to win it Saturday. I think Jared Curtis, if he can stretch this thing out, that's my prediction. So, everydayers, I know we've been through some twists and turns and this variable here, this variable there. It's looking like a physics problem or a complicated calculus problem at this point with the quarterback race and how each guy fits into this competition. So how do you see it? What do you think needs to happen in the scrimmage at the quarterback position for Blaise Berlowitz to win it or for Jared Curtis to win it? Who do you think? Do you think it's going to happen? Make your predictions. Does it change? Whatever. Leave that comment down below and make sure you participate there. Give it a like and subscribe as well. Again, this is a very, very pivotal practice day or scrimmage day, I should say, and this is going to be a very, very big decision for Clark Lee. So I think there's some things that can make that decision end on Saturday, and there's some things that can draw it out past Saturday. And any one of those things can happen. So how are the wide receivers affected by it? We're going to talk about wide receivers and just kind of offense in general. What I want to see out of the other 10 positions in the scrimmage. We'll do that. We'll do it next. All right. See this cool hat right over here? Yeah, right there. That's the game. And since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, the game is celebrating its 40th, 40, by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. So I've got both I got the white circular, and then also I got the black block letter as well. Both hats are absolutely incredible. They're both comfortable to wear. Those hats are iconic. And when you see those, it just feels like you look at that person, it just feels like they know ball. And you just automatically, you get that credibility when you're wearing that hat because not only do you know ball, but you've known ball for quite some time and you understand the nostalgia behind when these hats were really in their prime. I'm not saying they're past their prime, but I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but when they first came out in 1986, these things this was the hat, and it still is the hat. Nothing's changed except for now you get 40th anniversary savings on these iconic hats. They've been around for 40 years for a reason. They're iconic. So, with hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary offer will not last forever. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Thank you for making Locked On number one. Thank you for making the show what it is. With all this discourse about the quarterback position, it's starting to kind of it has overshadowed a lot of the rest of the team because it's such a big decision at such a important position that the quarterback's naturally going to overshadow a lot of things, especially if there's uncertainty there. And yes, there's uncertainty, not in, okay, what is our lesser of the two evils type option where you're like, okay, we've got a noticeable gap at the quarterback position. It's a tough decision in the fact that you have two really talented guys that are absolutely battling. And shout out to the quarterback room. I mean, Whit Muschamp is having a hell of a camp. I want to shout him out. Blaze Berlowitz, Jared Curtis, even Jack Elliott. I mean, they're all balling, dude. Like, and this is and I think Clark Lee will tell you this too as well, and this offensive staff will tell you that this quarterback I don't think anybody would envy them in this situation, because no matter what you do, you feel like you're going to make the right choice, but simultaneously the wrong choice, because like you have to choose one over the other. And it feels like a tough decision because you're letting a really good quarterback down in some way. So that's just kind of where we're at there. But the other positions offensively, I think the biggest thing that this quarterback race has affected is the passing game. And that's something that I think you'll start to kind of see that emerge. I would like to see just some guys step up and try to push through some of that and be a little bit more consistent in route running, getting open, catching the ball, providing opportunities for themselves, helping themselves out, things like that. And I think you need to see some playmakers emerge. We know what Junior Sherrill is. Like, that's a name that I really haven't had to talk about. When the season happens, there'll be a lot to talk about with Junior Sherrill, I predict, because he's going to be he's a dude, right? And we know that. And that's why there hasn't been a whole lot of discourse about Junior Sherrill, because he's a real known commodity, and there's not much to really talk about. He's going to ball. That's about it, right? he's going to ball. He's going to lead this group. He's going to be a big-time weapon on this offense. And so he's going to be a big part of what Vandy does, especially in the passing game, but he might be involved in some other aspects too. So there's that aspect of it. So that, do we really need to talk about Junior Sherrill? That's my spiel on Junior Sherrill. He's going to be an absolute dude. All right, but it's going to be Junior Sherrill, and we got to fill out the rest of that, and we got to fill out the rest of that hierarchy of what comes after and. Ja'Cory Thomas has been that name that I've heard repeatedly as the next name after and. So Junior Sherrill and Ja'Cory Thomas. That's something I want to see in the scrimmage. I want to see him really make a difference. I want to see somebody in the slot go grab that position. Go lock it down. Be undeniable. That's what I want to see out of the wide receiving group. I want to see some guys step in and go, and with their play, not necessarily saying this, but with their play, say, if you bench me, you're an idiot, because I'm going to make play after play after play after play after play after play after play, right? Running back room, the same. We have two known commodities with Cedric Alexander and MK Young. That's going to be your top tandem, but there's going to be a third, maybe a fourth guy that's going to be called upon at some point with a 9-game SEC schedule, with the gauntlet that Vandy has. There's going to need to be a third and fourth guy that contributes. Who's that going to be? Evan Hampton is starting to emerge from the pack. I want to see him lock that down. I want to see James L. Lassiter not let Evan Hampton overtake him. I want to see James L. Lassiter be able to handle that expanded role. I want to see what Gabe Fields can do. I want to see what Isaiah Lee can do. Like, I want to see these running backs perform, and I want to see them kind of take over. I think the offensive line is starting to clamp down a little bit. They're starting to take over the run game a little bit. They're starting to have a little more success there. Although I think the defense came back with a vengeance this week and had a really good week, and the offense still went back to struggling a little bit. But again, you're playing against who, if this Vandy defense is doing this, there's big expectations there. And that's part of the territory. That's part of how it shakes out with the way defense and offense goes in training camp. So essentially what I want to see, going back to offense, what I want to see is just some guys just take the bull by the horns and just go. Like, I want to see – I hope Caleb Barnett is let loose. Like, I think he's going to be a weapon, but I want to see it. I want to see Caden Smith now that he's back in camp. I want to see him take a role somehow and put himself in position to be – he's not going to start probably. I don't think he's going to start over Ja'Cory Thomas or Junior Sherrill. But I do want to see him get in that mold of, okay, well, we need some receivers to rotate in. I want to see him be part of that group. I want to see Owen Cabell do that. I want to see if Tristan Brown, who I've heard is, in line to maybe even take over in the slot. I want to see him do it. I want to see Cole Adams come in and be what he was in the spring. Like, I want to see these guys fighting over playing time. Not literally fighting like the Cowboys and Saints in training camp, but I want to see them go out there. One guy makes a play, another guy answers, and then another guy makes a play, and just, all of that. I want to see plays being made. And I think if you have good quarterback play, obviously that's going to affect that. Tight ends included. Like, I want to see Walt Taylor take that next step. I want to see Javante Connor become a dominant force. I want to see Cole Spence continue to be that dominant force. Cole Spence is obviously the leader of that group. And I want to see him be the leader of that group even more. And I want to see him elevate those other guys. Mo Vinny, I want to see what he can do. I want to see this offensive line. I want to see them improve in pass protection. Those are things that I think when you read about the scrimmage, you want to see improvements there. You want to see the O-line protected better. The O-line dominated to a certain degree against the run. The defense didn't allow them to completely road grade them, but there was a nice back and forth. I want to hear that, well, Evan Hampton has secured the third running back spot. I want to see Cole Adams or name, just any name. I'm just throwing out Cole Adams just because it's the first name. But I want to see Caleb Barnett lock up the slot position or whoever, Tristan Brown or whatever. I want to see somebody lock that position down. I want to see Ja'Cory Thomas solidify that other outside, that X position. I want to see it. That's what I want to read about offensively. I want to read that this group is starting to kind of come together. And with that, I think you're going to start to find some answers with the quarterback as well. So stay tuned for all of that. I look forward to reading about the offense. Now, what of the defense? Because this is where it kind of gets complicated, because the defense has been dominant all all camp long. And I want to see if they had a kind of a tough first scrimmage. I want to see if they can kind of turn it around a bit there. We'll talk about what that looks like next. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's very easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now, you get a chance to make your prediction before first pitch. So just go to the standings. Just go to the leaderboard, and just kind of follow the top 10 guys throughout the season. And then just kind of look at who they're playing against. And then take it on FanDuel. And you get that boost. And so you also look like who's playing the Reds this week, or the opposite of who's playing at a not hitter-friendly park. And you stay away from those guys until they leave that stadium. So it's a very fun way to kind of just glance in on other games. I'm sure if someone took a daily dinger on a Brewer a couple nights ago where they won 22-0, they probably got their profit boost there, honestly. And that was probably pretty fun. So, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. All right, got a few minutes left here. Locked on Vandy. Thank you for making Locked on Vandy part of your day. However that is. Thank you. Thank you for making Locked On number one as well. Talking about the defense real quick, and they don't need a whole big long segment because we know what this defense is. It's loaded. Got a lot of guys. And I think for this scrimmage, the main thing I want to see, I don't necessarily really need to see the starters. Obviously they need to get some work, but I think you need to kind of see what these down the line guys can do. What the second and third string guys can do, the 2s and 3s. And I think if you can see and get them some of that experience, I think you can kind of project how your defense will be if there's injury. Like, let's say, or maybe a guy plays his way into a competition for a starting spot where there wasn't previously a competition for a starting spot, where there was a clear 1 and a clear 2. Maybe a 2 can jump in there and make it not so clear with the person in front of them in the depth chart. So, like, those guys could have that chance. Like Jalen Gilbert at the safety position is making – I think he's making Clark Lee and this defensive secondary coaching staff kind of wonder, what do we need to do to get him more involved? How does he get in the game more? He's been balling out, and that's something that you can get answers for. Like, you can see, hey, maybe this guy does deserve more playing time. Maybe we should look at him starting at X or starting at whatever position. And that goes beyond Jalen Gilbert, of course, but Jalen Gilbert's somebody that I think should be in consideration. I think somebody like Jalen Stone, who's been having a pretty good camp, I don't know that he's going to start over Issa or start over or Seabrooks, but maybe he makes that not quite as clear. And by doing that, maybe he can get himself into the lineup a little faster. So for that reason, I think those are the answers you're going to get on defense. To be honest, like, I don't think you really need to know much else about your defense. Like, I just think they just need some reps. And at the same time, like, this is kind of where, to go full circle back to first segment, like, also, like, how do you throw enough at your quarterback so that you can kind of figure out and predict or project how they're going to play against teams like Auburn and Georgia and Ole Miss and Florida and Tennessee and Alabama? Like, how do you balance throwing enough at the quarterbacks to get that sort of evaluation piece versus evaluating your 2s and 3s to see if there needs to be any upward movement? Because I think you have your starting 11 pretty well set, aside from anything injury wise. I think there might be one spot that you're trying to figure out what to do with, and it's not necessarily like somebody's not. I just think there's multiple options for that one position, so you're kind of figuring out what the best option is, instead of like, oh, well, I mean, we're not sure of who's going to play that. I just think it's like kind of what you want to do with that position, the slot corner, the star position, or whatever they're deciding on calling it. I think is kind of something that's up in the air maybe. But so those are the answers you're going to get defensively. And that's what I'm anticipating there. So when you look at this team and you try to project what this defense is going to be, this could give you some answers there too. But also, part of what this defense is going to be is evaluating the depth of this defense. And you can't do that if those guys are sitting on the sideline and you're getting all your work for your 1s in this particular scrimmage. You've got your 1s, you know who they're going to be. But, like, this defense may have the luxury of being able to rotate guys in and rotate more guys in than they have been in past years, or ever maybe. Like, this might be a situation where you have the ability to rotate the most guys to get the most guys playing time that you've ever gotten and not have any drop off, and be able to do so without having to replace people for injury. And that keeps guys fresh. And I think that keeps your starters on their toes. It keeps them fresh, keeps them hungry in games like Austin Peay and Delaware. It keeps them safe for, like, when they get to that midseason point, like against around Arkansas, Kentucky games. Like, you get the ability to, now you have multiple guys that can play at every position. And so maybe you can cut down some snaps so that Issa can finish strong, or maybe you cut down a few snaps so that you get the best secondary in that last stretch, like maybe your best secondary emerges during that stretch. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of different things that can happen. So that's the interesting part about the defense. Let me know, offensively, defensively, what you want to see. What is the one question that's burning in your mind that you want answered in scrimmage number 2? Leave that down in the comments below, and we'll take that. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Scrimmage 2 coming up this weekend, so there'll be some reaction there starting next week and next week's shows. So stay tuned for that. The season's upon us. It's like we can reach out and just grab the season, right? It's right there. So that being said, thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Make sure you follow on social media at Locked On Vandy, all social media platforms. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Another option, Fire TV. So it's starting to go out to all the television apps like Fire TV channels and things like that. So make sure you look there. If you see it, because I don't have the Fire TV stuff. If you look at it and you see it, screenshot it, tag me on social media. That would be super dope. But yeah, we're going to continue as training camp unfolds. As this Vanderbilt team picture gets a little more clarification, gets a little more clarity, we'll be here to discuss. So if you need a second listen on the network, Locked On SEC, Locked On College Football, those are two good options there, two solid options. And of course, during the season, just go to the opponent's respective Locked On channel, go check them out. Starting with Kenton Gates, with Locked On Wolfpack, and then the whole host of SEC shows from that point on. So I'm Corey Burton. This is Locked On Vandy. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy part of your day. And until next time, anchor down. Peace.